Okay. Good evening, everybody. It is Thursday, January 18th, and third Thursday of the month. So it is the ANC 5D Zoning and Development Committee meeting. We have three presentations on the agenda tonight. The first presentation is going to be BZA case 21061 for project at 1725 Montella Ave Northeast. We're going to let them, they have a hearing coming up in March. So we're going to have them go first. Next, we have a pending BZA case for 1220 Mount Olivet Road. And John Miller from Flywheel Development will present there. And then last but not least, we have a presentation for BZA case 21010 for a project at 1271 5th Street Northeast. That is for a hotel project at Union Market. Just for some background, the applicant there already presented to the zoning committee in August, and then the full ANC last September. And ANC 5D has already voted to support that project 5-1-1. But I understand the zoning laws change in the new year, and that's requiring Edens to change their proposal. So they'll be here tonight to present an updated design. In general, I don't want to give any time limits to anyone. You can present as long as you want, but I do want to hold to, not to exceed 30 minutes per presentation. That way we're not here, we're not here too late. I do appreciate everybody being here. And I do want to take a second to introduce Commissioner Arbuckle. Just last week is the new ANC Commissioner Chair of this committee. And I think I'm remaining neighbor co-chair. I'm not an elected commissioner, but I'm here to support Commissioner Arbuckle in any way I can. And just want to make a note of that. I think he might decide to be running these meetings, and I'll be here. I'm not going anywhere. I'm going to let him decide how he wants to do it. With that, let's kick it off with BZA case 21061. And Marty, will you be presenting? Will I make you a co-host?
Yes, please. Yeah, I'm gonna.
Okay.
Share my
I'm
screen.
gonna make you a co-host. You can share a screen. Okay, you should now have co-host privileges.
Okay. Make sure I get the right screen here. All right.
Did we lose Kevin?
I'm here. I just turned off my video for a second. I figure I want people focused on Marty's presentation. It's gonna.
Okay, does everybody see that?
Yep. Yes.
Okay. Boyan, if I can work the controls here, if you want to take them through the plans. The relief is, it's a special exception for parking, for 4 parking spaces for a 17-unit building. This is the MU4 zone at 1725 Montella Avenue. And the main justification for the special exception is that there's no reasonable way to provide parking spaces on the site. It's a very narrow lot without alley access. So Boyan, if you want to explain the plans.
Sure. And Marty, actually, I'm on my phone. If you don't mind, just kind of flipping through the plans, we can just focus on we can look at the site plan and the architectural plans. Really, I think that's the most important piece. But it's a 17-unit apartment building. It's 6 2 bedrooms and 11 1-bedroom units. On this side, this will be not quite ground up new construction. We're going to keep some of the front facade, or at least modified some of the front facade and kind of add to it. But it'll be essentially, about 90% new construction. So we'll be doing an addition in the back, and just to kind of make it sort of more, more natural light and livable and so forth. We're doing a courtyard in the middle to let in a lot more light on the units in the middle, and we can show some of the layouts if you guys are interested in looking at the layouts.
Which page should I start on?
This will be A100 is the first page of the layouts.
Sorry. Okay, there it is.
Right. So we have the building is it's approximately 14,000 square feet. We have it's a cellar over so it's a 4 stories over a cellar, right? So we have cellar plus 4 levels and a penthouse level. So it's 5 stories total, which is basically essentially maximizing, right, what's available in this particular zone in MU4. And in the basement, we have 3 units in the basement, a 2-bedroom and 2 1-bedroom units. The first level, we have 2 2-bedroom units. Marty, you can scroll to page A101 and 102. It shows the basically the layout, and we can certainly obviously share the plans with everybody afterwards if you guys don't have that available. So A101 would be the next page. This is the top level, yeah. So there's a level below. So A101. I'm not sure the pages are out of order, but this is A102, I believe.
It should be on A101. It's A101 on my screen.
Oh, it is, yes. So maybe it's not refreshing on my screen. So so on the second level, so first level we had 2 2-bedroom units. Second level and third level, we have 4 1-bedroom units. And then at the very top, this is page A102. We have the 4th floor with the penthouse floor, and there we have 3 2-bedroom units and 1 1-bedroom units for a total of 17 units. We're gonna have green roof, right? Green roof requirements. We're gonna have the trash enclosure in the back. We're gonna have some bike storage inside the building. I believe we're required 5 or 7 spaces in the inside the building, and we're required to do some in the back as well. So we're gonna do as many bike spaces as we can, since we don't have parking to kind of facilitate that. And it's all going to have to be in the back, since essentially in the frontage we're right on the property line, right in public space. So it's going to have to be in the back. So we'll have some indoor and some outdoor bike storage spaces. And I mean that's kind of it, the project in a nutshell. I mean, obviously we welcome questions, any detailed questions regarding kind of the scope of the building.
And it is an inclusionary zoning project, right, Boyan?
It will be, yes.
Units.
Correct. Yes, it is, and we're providing one of the 2-bedroom units on the first floor will be the an IZ unit 5. That's on page A100.
So, Marty, could you refresh us on what would a strict interpretation of the zoning regulations require for parking, for number of parking spaces? So, what is the level of ask?
The 4 spaces is required for 17 units, because we're not within the 50% reduction area. We're about a mile from the metro. There's a bus stop in front of the property, and several bus stops around there, and we're about a little over a half mile from the streetcar line. So we're not close enough for the 50% reduction. So it's 4 spaces. And the special exception criteria for that parking relief request is that we satisfy one of there's 6 or 7 possibilities to justify relief. And the one we're relying on principally is that due to the physical constraints of the property, the required parking spaces cannot be provided either on the lot or within 600 feet of the lot in accordance with C 701.8. And in our applicant statement, the property lacks alley access, and DDOT would not be likely to permit a curb cut. And even if they did, you can tell the lot's very narrow, and we wouldn't be able to have a driveway. All parking lots within 600 feet are dedicated to their own respective residential and commercial use requirements. We've also noted that the land use or transportation characteristics of the neighborhood minimize the need for required parking. There's several bus stops. And as mentioned, we're about a mile from the Gallaudet metro station and about 0.65 miles from the 8th Street streetcar. There's several Capital bike share stations within walking distance of the property.
Could you show perhaps a rendering which shows a top-down view? Or I want to understand how the property is going to handle 17 units. How will you handle trash and recycling if there isn't alley access?
Yeah, so we'll be using, so we're going to contract like a private trash pickup company, and we've had these cases in other projects where there's no alley access, and obviously there's many examples, I think, where there's properties, right, or projects or buildings that without alley access, right, in DC, and essentially they go in through the main corridor, which is on the first floor, which connects the front and the back. It goes all the way from the beginning to the end of the property. And they essentially go in and they'll pick up the trash cans. They'll get the trash out, essentially, bags or what have you, and basically put the cans back in. So the private trash pickup company handles that.
Boy, where are the trash cans? Are they?
You can pull up the site plan. Let's see. The site plan should show the location of the. Should show the location of the trash cans. I'll pull it up on my side as well. So that will be page A103, which is a roof plan and also site plan A103. It should be shown.
Sorry, I'm trying to zoom in, guys, but I don't know if you can on your end. I can't seem to do it here. But it's in this area here, Boyan, in the back?
Exactly, right there. Yeah, when there's like 3 squares there, that's the essentially trash enclosure area. So we have a bit of greenery, we have trash cans, and there's additional bike racks in the back as well in the patio.
Yeah, and Marty, let me just share my screen. I'm going to share the app here myself. I'm going to share the if I can do it right now. I'm going to zoom in.
Should I stop sharing or?
Yes. Well, I should be able to do this here, and okay, okay. So where did you? So what I was concerned about is I'm seeing it at the front of the building, and it's going to the lot levels. I'm just seeing stairs here, and normally like trash and recycling, I just don't see how you getting the trash and recycling totes out of the building when there's stairs here. That's why I'm confused here.
So they'll go back in the back where the bins are, and they actually get the trash out, and they get it through the so somebody will basically walk into the building, they'll have access, and they go in the back, they pick up everything from the bins, and then they take it out essentially. So they're not going to be like rolling the bins, through the building and so forth. They actually go and pick it up from the bins. And they take it out that way. Does it make sense? So they're not rolling anything out essentially in this case.
Okay, so there's so the dumpsters are in. Is this the rear of the building here?
That's the back of the building. So in that particular view, it doesn't show it. But if you go on page A103, which has the site plan, I can show you where.
A103. Let me find it.
Yeah, it should be right after this page. Yeah, so that one with
there we go.
That one, with the site plan. So it's right there. in the back. So we have the bikes in the bottom, then in the middle there's the trash cans. Those three rectangles is the enclosed trash can area. And we're gonna have basically, trash bins, which was also provided by the private trash pickup company. And we usually do like an enclosure, kind of like a basically fenced-in enclosure and so forth, like for cleanliness and to rats and things like that, right? To protect the cans. But they'll basically go in the back, pick up everything, and go through the front.
Yeah. How often are you going to do pickups? And the reason I'm fixated on this is, I mean, we fill a recycling container, and I'm in a single family house once a week, with weekly pickup. Most families have, or probably filling a recycling container. I just see 3 containers for a 17-unit apartment building. Like I don't object. I don't object to the number of units. I think we need more density and more building. I just don't see the trash. I'm trying to make sense of this.
Yeah, and this is also for presentation purposes. So the three rectangles doesn't mean there's only 3 trash cans. So we determined the number of trash cans. So the pickup company, right? The sanitation company. There's many. I'm talking about private. So this is nothing to do with the public. Trash pickup system, right? So this is private companies that, based on the number of units, so they'll say, well, I think we should do, and you can always increase the number of trash cans as well, right? So depending on the needs of the tenants. So they may say for 17 units, we'll get you guys started with like 5 trash bins and 4 recycling bins, or 5 and 5, right? And so that area, that's the kind of the overall designated area for the trash bins that we can kind of expand on. And also, as far as the frequency, you can play with that as well. So we can do twice a week. We can do 3 times a week as well. Obviously, the cost increases, right? The more pickups you have, but it's all that's basically customizable, if you will, if that makes sense.
Yeah. Okay. Skip
So in this case,
question.
yeah. So in this case, you're right. I think it's going to have to be at least twice a week, maybe even 3 times a week pickup, depending on the number of bins.
Yeah. Well, I know that I know there's the building next door to you. I think they have something similar. So maybe we'll reach out to them to find out how it's working for them. I guess our concern, I think, is that we just don't want to see trash recycling containers becoming a public problem, where if the tenants, if there's a non-working solution, and then the tenants start putting trash into the public, there's a bus stop nearby. For some reason, people just are frustrated and they start putting their trash into the public trash in front of the building. That's we want to avoid that.
Yeah, and there's actually another solution, I think, that we're going to explore. So the neighbor to the back of us, right? So this is essentially 1211 Mount Olivet, right? So this is the convenience store. So they're facing us in the back, and actually in the past we made an attempt to contact them and see if they would ever give us basically like an access easement to the back. And we kind of never heard back on that, but maybe in this case, we can reach out again, see if we can at least get, obviously just temporary access agreement as far as getting basically the putting a gate in the back, right? Just put a gate in the back facing their property, and then just have just for the trash truck, right? So they can come by, open the gate, and get the trash from the back. I mean, obviously there'll be a lot better solution, but we'll have to talk to them and make sure they're okay, because that, even though over there it just looks like a big parking lot and so forth, right? That's still their property, so we're gonna have to get their permission to do that. But we're gonna explore that solution as well. And if we can resolve that, I think that's the way to go, right? To have the gate in the back.
Yeah, because I mean, this address here, I think this property here, I expect this will be fully developed someday. And the question is, but this is going to be another large building. Question is, how far back will they go? They'll most likely want to have. So, if you could reach out to them to understand it, maybe there's a good decision. And again, there's also, they've done something similar here. Let me see if I can get the.
Yeah, and the ones next door, yeah, the ones next door. So the 112, this is 1210 Sims Place, which is also
Yeah.
landlocked, and the one on the corner as well next to us, right? 1723 Montello is also a small apartment building. So they're also they
Yeah.
don't have they're also landlocked and so forth. So we can also reach out
Yeah.
to them as far as how that program is working for them and who are they using. And but like I said, this is not a unique problem to our project, right? There's many properties without alley access. So we'll reach out to all the neighbors there and see how they're handling trash, and also reach out to 1211 Mount Olivet and see if they would be willing to give us like a temporary access easement. I mean, we're going to try at least. It might be a big ask, for them, but we're definitely going to reach out and figure it out. But yeah, the property next door is a good example where they're already handling trash, right, without alley access. So
Gotcha. Okay. And is there any, so you're only asking for the zoning relief on that one, is just the parking?
just parking. Yep. Yep.
Okay. And an IZ, you're going to provide one 2-bedroom IZ unit
Correct. On the first floor. Yes.
first floor. Skip, do you have a question? I think I see you.
Yes, I have a question, and it's more of a question, one of information. At what point do elevators become required? I was trying to look it in the zoning rules, and I can't find it. Is it the number of units, or is it the number of floors? And at what point does requiring a lift be triggered?
It's above. We've never done a project with elevator, but my understanding it's above 5 stories. We're 4 stories. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
As I was told recently, it's anything more than 15 apartments. So it probably is a combination above 5 stories and more than 15. Okay.
Correct.
Thank you.
Correct. Yep.
Thanks, Skip. That's a good question. So Marty, I know your BZA hearing is in March.
Yes.
Are you on the agenda have you reached out to the ANC to be on their agenda for the February meeting? Because the ANC's March, the ANC recently changed their calendar, and so they went from being, I think, the first Monday now to I think they're back to the second Tuesday. Commissioner Arbuckle, did I get that correct? So
Okay, so we have to be in February, right? I'm sure we have, but I'll make sure tomorrow that
yeah,
we
and
confirm that.
obviously I never dare to guess how the ANC will feel on a particular project. We've got an ANC commissioner here, so Commissioner Arbuckle, if you have any questions or comments on it, is this your first time, Marty, presenting on this project to the ANC?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, I don't think we haven't, Boyan, have we?
Not on this part. No, this is the first time presenting this project. Yes.
Okay.
Marty, have you
Yeah.
presented other projects at the ANC before?
Oh yeah.
Did you do the
Yeah.
project like on Montello? The other Montello? I don't remember if it was you or not.
Which one? I mean, there was another parking relief case like similar to this. Is that the one?
It was the
There was
one.
one at Oates. There was one at Oates recently.
Hold on, let me see which. I'm going to search my Montello cases real quick.
Might have been Morse.
Oh, Morse, definitely, yeah.
Okay. The one with the side yard?
Yes.
Okay, I remember that
The
one.
one in Commissioner Roblin's district. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, I'm here. Hi.
Hello.
Hello.
Yeah, we're still waiting on that order, I think.
Order for what?
Well, when the ANC opposes a project, it takes an extra 15 months to get an order out of the Office of Zoning sometimes.
Yeah,
So,
that's right.
so they can't get a permit until then.
So Marty, for this particular project, I would encourage you to. So obviously, it's best to get the support of the ANC. If if your client, if you guys can reach out, you are 5205, which is Commissioner Sauceda Guzman for this project, and if you can reach out to them, and after this meeting, I'm going to send this presentation so they can review it before the meeting. And if you sense that there's not like full support, and if you think the ANC vote in February won't go well, there won't be time. I mean, they will have to vote in February to ensure there's at least one vote for the March. But if you think you need more time to coordinate, if there is an easement issue or an access for the back, if there's something that requires more time, just keep the ANC's schedule in mind in case you need to push out the March hearing to like April or something like that.
Okay, I appreciate that. We will keep an eye on that.
I have a question. So, I wouldn't be supportive of this, but it looks from the presentation, it looks like the only way to get parking in there would be to have an easement, which you weren't able to get, or to have a curb cut and parking in the front. The parking in the front, is that legal, or kind of curb cut, is that legal, or would that not be feasible?
Yeah, they won't be feasible since, especially there's not an existing curb cut, and also DDOT basic, for a new project like this, they would never approve a curb cut in the front, basically. So
That's right.
yeah, so that's not feasible. Yeah, with DDOT. Yeah.
So it's basically impossible to do this project with parking.
That's
correct. And I don't think
correct.
I don't think easement's really a possibility in back either. I think easement for sort of pedestrian trash removal is maybe a possibility, but I don't think you could get cars in and out.
Not for parking. Yeah.
Thank you.
Okay, so I want to be respectful because we've got, I think we've had about half an hour on this. Unless there's any further comments, I'd like to move on to the next project on the agenda. Marty, you guys, was there anything else you wanted to share with us?
No, this is great. Thank you for your time, everybody.
I appreciate it.
And we'll follow up with the ANC.
Great.
Thank you.
Thanks, everyone.
Okay, so next item on the agenda is going to be John Miller. John, I'm going to promote you to a co-host so you can share your screen. I'm going to ask you to unmute yourself.
Hi, everyone. Can you hear me?
Can hear you. Yep.
Great. Thank you so much. Thank you, Mr. Horgan, Commissioner, members of the committee, for taking time to hear from us today about this project. I'm going to see if I can share my screen. Let's look at, I did not create an establishing shot for this, so I'm going to pull up Google Street View to start off with. All right, so thank you all for having us tonight. I'm going to try to be mindful of the time. I've got a few slides and PowerPoint to go through. We're here tonight to talk about 1220 Mount Olivet Road, not far away actually from the presentation we just saw. If you see my screen here, and we're just looking, of course, at this property over here. The property we're working on is right across the street here. It's this existing masonry and concrete structure, and then the surrounding lot. It's about 7,250 square feet. It's currently being used by a really great landscaping company that we hope actually to retain in our proposed building program. So with that, I'm going to flip over to my presentation. All right, can folks see my screen now?
Yes. Okay, great.
So again, I'm John Miller, Flywheel Development, LLC. We're a DC-based CBE, longtime residents of the district. We do a little bit of everything. We're active in real estate, stormwater, retention work, and then really the biggest part of our business is solar, solar installation, both commercial and to some extent residential. We're a frequent partner of the DC government. If folks here are familiar with the DC Solar for All program, which is administered by DOEE and the DCSU, we're one of their frequent partners. So I'm going to go ahead and just sort of show you some of the things that we do. These are a wide variety of projects that we've built over the last few years. We do rooftop solar installations, ground mounts. We actually did upper right, or is a combined solar green roof we put on. It was actually one of the first ones of its kind in the country. Now they're everywhere, but we were building one of these quite a while ago. You can see carports, solar, shingle roofs, sort of a little bit of everything. Our team is very talented. Some members of our team here, again, we're a contractor. We build things. We're not just a developer. So some of these folks work for us. Some of them are our MBE subcontractor partners who are great. We work with and partner on certain projects. Again, a sampling of projects from carports to a really cool product at lower left. It's actually a solar shingle roof, which we're going to hopefully integrate into this project as well. I'll show you all that in a moment. Just a little bit of background on the company. In the interest of time, I'm going to skip that. And let's jump into the project. So we talked about the property. I showed y'all where it was. I'd like to kind of start by talking through the building program and some of the relief we'd be asking for. There's a few special exceptions in this case, but just some of the particulars, just really quick, high level. By right, with respect to FAR, about 30,000 square feet. It's a zero lot line proposed project, which means it's going to touch all of the property lines on each side. We've got a sort of and I'll talk through this with the slides, but we have a large circulation bay on the ground floor where we have business vehicles for both our business and for other small green businesses based here in the district. We're going to reuse that really terrific little masonry structure that's on site. That'll be an adaptive reuse. The idea there is that that'll be very much like our lobby to the larger structure. We have 2 warehouse floors above that and a really cool residential wrapper in the first 30 or so feet that'll activate the streetscape, which we think is quite exciting. A lot of times, you know, warehouse buildings go up, they're value engineered things that nobody's very proud of. So we're going to be quite beautiful, I think. We have a habitable penthouse on the top floor. But one of the things our company does, we've built buildings that have been net zero energy. I won't go into depth on what that is. I think many of the members of this committee are architects or design professionals. You guys understand what that is. But we're hoping to make this rather large building net zero energy, which is challenging. But of course, a lot of the building has a low EUI because it's a semi conditioned warehouse. So I'll talk more through that as we go through the slides. This is sort of advanced too far. This is our street frontage as it's proposed. So there's a lot of things going on here that I'll talk about. Again, you can see that very large 30-foot wide door for commercial vehicle loading and of course, tractor trailers and so forth, which we're going to talk about, which is something that's going to be interesting. One really cool thing about this project that we're excited about is that we're proposing to use this great solar shingle on the facade. This is something we put on roofs before. It can be applied in a condition like this. A lot of visual interest, and of course, it's making power. Again, we're a solar company. We build solar projects all over the district, and we love the idea of our building literally being covered in these very attractive solar panels. You see that the panels transition to glass units at the top of the central bay, as well as in this sort of mezzanine area that transitions from that commercial loading area to the floors above. One thing I'll point out before we move on, in the interest of time, sort of circling here, if you can see my mouse, but it doesn't seem to be working. But the masonry building that I described being on the site is at lower left in this case. We'd be putting a glass garage door equivalent in there. And again, that's sort of thought of as our lobby. So what we'd like to do is to very much like Eden's has done successfully on their sort of, I guess, office building over in Union Market, we'd like to find a community serving tenant that can be in that space. So a coffee shop, something like that. We're open-minded and we've started those conversations with local, with our neighbors and other members of the community. So again, just pictures of what that building looks like inside. It's really a neat structure. Typically something like this would be raised, but we're going to work around it. It's got that really cool concrete coffered ceiling that folks are familiar with from nearby Union Market. We want to retain the building. It's going to become kind of the front door for our business and hopefully another local business as well. Just to talk about proposed relief, we've done our due diligence on this. We've met with the Office of Planning. A couple special exceptions would be asked for here. I can talk about those in depth. I'm told after conversations with them that these are not particularly big asks, but just to go through them in depth before we show you the pictures. Rear setback above the ground floor level. So in this particular PDR zone, there's a requirement to set back the building mass above 20 feet. But again, our neighbors seem to be supportive of what we're doing, and I'll talk about that. So I don't think that's an issue, at least from the neighbor's perspective. We'd be asking for penthouse height and side yard setback relief as well. Again, a special exception. OP seemed to think that was not a big ask, but of course, you know, your group and the ANC may have something to say about that. We might like to have a community user on our top floor, very much like I think the Edens project that's you're gonna see in a minute. So we can talk to that. Of course, that requires a special exception as well, if I'm not mistaken. Parking, we're very close to the requirement. We need vehicles for our business and for other businesses. I believe we're showing about 16 spaces. Depending on how you slice and dice the parking regulations, I think the requirement is 16 to 17 for this use type. So we're very close. We need parking. So that's not something we're going to try to certainly get out of. Again, pictures of the building here. In the interest of time, I'll go on. But you can imagine how great this space would be when it's repurposed. And I'll mention before I talk too much about this that, of course, the landscaping company is great. We've been working with them. There's still a tenant on the site. The idea is that we would integrate them into this building program, and they could stay if they want to. So that's something, you know, our company is about revitalization, but we don't believe in displacement. And this is an example where we really want to keep those folks there if we can. So again, facade presentation here, you can see the silver shingles, the penthouse. I think it's pretty self-explanatory. Of course, I'll show the other elevations, but they're not very exciting because they're zero lot line. So again, you see those windows on the front. The warehouse is behind that. That's the first 20 or 30 feet. That's going to be a handful of residential live work artist style units. And again, our main door, you can see all these vehicles are EVs. We'll be doing EV charging there for our vehicles and for others as well. So I talked about this really great single product that we're going to put on the facade. This is us installing that on a house a 4-unit building in Northeast DC. This is last year. This is part of a portfolio of projects we built with funding from the DC Green Bank, who incidentally is the lender that allowed us to acquire this property we're talking about tonight. So it's a really neat product. I know we have design professionals here. I'm happy to answer questions about it. It's a little exotic and new, but it's really great, and just I think it's going to be really cool from the street level. Just an atmospheric picture. You can see we call this project the Bristol Cone Warehouse, and the idea was we thought, you know, these really amazing shingles, which kind of change color depending on light. Sometimes they can appear blue, sometimes black. We're sort of reminiscent of this really cool form you see in nature, which is one of these pine cones from these very long-lived trees. So that's kind of where the name comes from. If you're wondering, you can probably see that connection. Floor plans. I know we talked a lot about trash and circulation in the last project, so I'll try to talk about this with some specificity. So if you look on the right, you can see our ground floor plan. I apologize, this is not the best quality. I put this together in advance of our call today and didn't grab a high enough res image, but you can see on the right, within that footprint, the footprint of the existing building. You see it's written existing masonry building. Again, that's the lobby of the building. Hopefully we can get a really great tenant in there. Behind that is the circulation core. You'll see stairs, an elevator, as well as a freight elevator. So the freight elevator is there to bring materials in from that central loading bay up onto the higher levels of the warehouse. So this is very much like warehouses were built historically. DC, of course, the land is quite expensive. We can't afford to build a big sprawling 1-story warehouse for the business. So the idea is that we're going to bring trucks in there. Commercial vehicles can park and unload, can do things. And then when we get a big delivery, a truck can pull in. And you see there's a sort of a rectangle in the back there. It's called a dock lift. It's one of these things that sort of pops out of the ground, but you can otherwise roll over it. So a tractor trailer or a commercial truck can pull up to that. A forklift can be raised up from the ground. It can enter the tractor trailer or truck, pull a pallet out, and then you descend, and then the forklift sort of does an arc to the right and then back to the left, and puts that pallet into the freight elevator. So we'll have some storage on this level, but some things will have to go up into the building volume. So that's kind of how that space will work. You can see the footprint of the parking spaces. We have 2 triple car stackers for small, individual employee kind of cars, but also a number of large, oversized commercial vehicle spaces on the right, where people will be able to pull in, do EV charging, things like that. Now, most of our workforce and the workforce of the other businesses that will use this space, they take their cars home at night. So this is the kind of thing where people are going to come in once a day, they're going to grab stuff and they're going to go. Of course, because we're going to be an employer, we're going to locate our own office on site. There'll be a lot of people coming and going, but there'll sort of be a rush of people in the morning and the afternoon. And sort of the rendering that you saw earlier, which we'll flip back to in a second, is suggestive of that kind of activity. Just getting to this question of trash and recycling, bike storage and things like that, you can see in the secondary stair core all the way on the right of that picture on the right of this page, that's the ground floor, you'll see there's a little, it's not very clear, but there's a trash and recycling room there. So that'll be inside the building, trash recycling. Of course, we're interested in diverting waste and doing recycling. So we'll have aluminum and steel recycling, as well as copper recycling, which is something that, of course, is quite valuable. That'll be located in one of the tenant spaces upstairs. You can see bike parking there as well. So that's kind of how that's being addressed in this project. I know there may be questions, so we can come back to that. Warehouse levels above. So again, you can see that this is levels 2 and 3. You can see the residential wrapper in the front and the semi-conditioned warehouse behind. Of course, the building will appear as one building, and it will be relatively super insulated, since we're going to be using passive house style envelope approaches. But the set points, of course, in that warehouse space will be a bit different than in the residential one. So you can see sort of to the right of the stair core, that big rectangle, that's our freight elevator. So the idea is that pallets of solar panels, other equipment, will sort of come up through that that volume and then be put in this larger space. Actually, the rectangles at the upper left of each floor plan, that's sort of what a pallet of solar panels looks like. That's the footprint. It's about 7 feet by 3.5 feet, and they'll be double and triple stacked respectively on the 2 floors. So I'll show you all in a minute kind of what that looks like. I know I'm going fast again. Happy to answer questions about this if we when we get to questions. Top level, again, looking to do habitable penthouse in the sort of in that footprint of the top level. We're asking for relief related to the height of that structure, but after talking to OP, we propose to set it back a distance equal to its height, right? So the volume is 20 feet tall, and we'll be setting it back 20 feet. That would be our proposal coming in. And then, of course, within that space, we're hoping to install a mechanical loft. We use lots of interesting technology, adsorption chillers, all sorts of neat HVAC to get to net zero for a building that's this size. So we're hoping that can be a really cool space where we can kind of show off the technology to interested city groups. We often find ourselves giving tours of our projects to folks. So just really quickly, some elevations. Again, these are not the pretty sides of the building. These are the east and north elevations. I'm assuming, of course, we could enrich these with public art or banners or things like that. But presumably, as the street gets built out, these are going to be zero lot line conditions. So people are they're going to build something against this particular wall. We would love it if we could put more solar panels on these 2 facades, but that's just not something that we can do with the building code, and I doubt we'll have easements available to do that kind of thing. Here's the west elevation again. You can see that little brick building sort of being engulfed by its larger structure. We'll restore the historic windows and put in low E glass, and probably we'll have a second set of windows, either outboard or inboard of those to help us with energy efficiency, since that section will be part of the building condition envelope. Just a little bit about us, and I'm jumping around, but this gets to this idea in a second of kind of how we're hoping to use this building. Of course, this is a PDR zone, and we think our street frontage is going to be really cool and interesting, but it's also a working building. You know, we're a contractor. We build really good things. People like us want to stay in the district, and so we're going to talk about trucks in a second. I think that may be the most controversial part of this, but I don't want to get ahead of myself. So again, we're a small contractor. We're a member of a national cooperative called Amicus. It's made up of about, I think we just crested 80 members, almost all US states, Alaska, Hawaii, many in California. We're all value-driven companies, so we're all very public-spirited. And this group has gotten together with the idea that we kind of have to stick together and do things like purchasing together to be able to be competitive with a lot of our the other folks in our sort of business space. And one of the ways we do that is we buy directly from manufacturers. So for instance, we're frequently receiving deliveries of Q-Cell brand solar panels from a manufacturing plant, actually here in Georgia. It's been in the news. I think President Biden has been down there to do ribbon cuttings and things like that. It's something we're really proud of. You know, the panels are, in this case, they're actually being made in the USA. But again, this is our team. This is kind of what we do. We're bringing these big things in and out. And where this is a lead-in, I guess this is important to look at. This is sort of what these boxes look like. So this is a pallet. Again, this is like the currency of our business. This is how we try to, make the district more sustainable. These things are really big, and they come in these very large trucks. This is something I've talked to Dion about briefly. This is a truck turn analysis from our civil engineer. This sort of shows there's only so many ways really to get a full tractor trailer 50 feet, 70 feet in a structure like this. The building, the frontage has a curb cut along its entire length. We actually would like to keep a lot of that in place. DDOT typically would ask you to close something like that. We've had conversations with them. As many people know here, there's going to be a DDOT-led road diet of this particular road. So it's going to go down from 2 lanes of traffic in each direction to 1 lane in each direction, plus a bike lane. So it's going to get a lot smaller. And DDOT had initially suggested that we could bring the truck in from across the street and go across traffic. That was possible, I suppose, under this current alignment. But when the street gets narrow, the only real way to bring in a 50 or a 70-foot truck, and we could do it quite elegantly, is to have it back up from that curbside westbound lane. So you can sort of see that path here, sort of arcing back into the building is not shown here, but you can sort of see that truck is coming in the footprint of where that large central bay was. And again, backing up to a dock. And we think it's a really elegant way to be able to kind of swallow that truck up and not have it be on the curb. DDOT generally will prefer things like street side loading, but in this case, that's not possible because we'd have to, well, there's a lot of reasons why we can't do it. Among them, when we go down to 1 lane, cars could no longer go and pass in the westbound lane. So I'm going to flip back briefly to my sort of my image of the facade here to kind of talk about that. Okay, so you can see the building again here. So we're proposing to put a really big tree box in on the east side of the property. You see those twin trees. Right now, that's a kind of a weedy, overgrown patch. It's actually a much smaller tree box. So we definitely want to put that in. But I think where there'll be debate with DDOT, I don't think there's really a way to do this now that they're doing the road diet. But you can see on the left in front of the roll-up door, I think in a perfect world with a 4-lane road, they'd like to see a tree box there as well. So I just want to flag that as, and I've talked to DDOT, and it's a very big organization. And at the time we spoke about this, I don't think the public space planners were aware of the road diet. I don't think there was communication going on. So they had asked us to do street side loading or to come in from one of the 2 eastbound lanes. But again, that's no longer possible. So happy to talk more about that. I think these things go, that's one of the more complicated elements of this project. I have a couple more slides, and I'm sure we'll have some questions. Just trying to advance through this rather quickly. So again, there's our truck turn analysis. Community outreach, we've spoken to the neighbors. They're great. We have the boxing gym that y'all all know about, who's doing really good work. On the west side, I've talked to Salim. He sounds very positive about what we're doing, is excited about it. They have a mission, of course, to help young men find things to do that are uplifting, and we'd like to work with him to maybe plug folks not only into maybe our business, but related businesses. And we're also hoping that he can help us. He volunteered to help us on an ongoing basis when we do need to bring trucks in. So it's quite expensive to bring in a third-party traffic engineering company to hold up flags, but individuals can be trained to do that, of course, and we're hoping he can work with us on that, just trying to, build a really good connection there. And then on our east side, we have the commissary for Ravenhook Bakery. There's also a coffee shop that's doing, I guess, roasting of their coffee beans in the space. So we met with them, also seem very supportive. They're excited. There's a potential opportunity to plug them into one of these retail spaces, for instance, the lobby. So that's a conversation we're having now that we're fairly excited about. So again, that's sort of early days, but again, we're trying to be a good neighbor. No real opposition. We've met with the proprietors across the street who own the retail buildings with parking, and they seem excited to see something happening here. And again, the current tenant, the tree maintenance company, they don't have a big footprint. They have a couple big trucks, and they have, what you saw from the pictures, they have tree watering bags and stakes, and that's about it. So the idea is that those can be palletized, put on the freight elevator, brought down seasonally when they need to use them. And again, we think that that space can be shared and they can stay there with us and with some other companies as well. Just next steps. These are things that, because we don't have a lot of members of the community here tonight, but we're hoping to go to the ANC next month. We don't have a BZA meeting scheduled, but I need to, put that in relatively soon. We're a community-focused company, so we're coming to you first. We have some sense of urgency. We want to build this building, and that's sort of why I showed this picture here. This is Luis, who's on our team. This is one of our many storage units across DC and neighboring areas in Maryland, and we really we want to get out of that mode of working. It's not fun. We'd like to have all of our people and work together in a space where we can really have everything in one place and also be a really good neighbor. So this meeting, of course, is one of our first steps. We've reached out to our local ANC commissioner, referred to earlier, again, same district. There's a BZA process that needs to get started relatively soon. And of course, there's this question about DDOT public space. That's going to be interesting. And, our position is that, we want to be a really great neighbor, but, it's a PDR zone, and we really want to be able to bring trucks in and out a couple times a week and in as non-disruptive a way as possible. And I hope the public presentation of this building is going to be really cool and exciting, and I think probably a lot further than a lot of conventional developers or builders would go. So that's the end of my presentation. Sorry to kind of race through it. Just ready for any questions y'all have.
Thanks, John. I really appreciate it. The Commissioner Arbuckle has a question.
Hello, thank you so much for your presentation. I'm thinking about context. So in this meeting, so there's the BZA process with the zoning, and then there's the DDOT public space conversation. With this meeting, are you wanting to just talk about the BZA process, or do you want to talk about, are we just talking about the relief for the zoning part? And is there going to be another
that's
one?
a great question.
With the public space?
Oh, I'm sorry.
Sorry.
No, I apologize. I have a lag on my end. So this is sort of a broad-based conversation. We've taken projects through BZA before, so we have some experience doing that. My hope in coming today is to bring this project to the group, get feedback, build a sense of support. Hopefully, take your feedback into account, You know, I talked a little bit about everything here, again, what the company's about, what the relief we'd be asking for, the special exceptions from BZA, and then, yeah, this question of public space. I think these are all kind of interrelated issues, and I think it's kind of broad-based, like we're talking about things that are not zoning related, but I think they sort of, I think without telling the story of what the business does, it's hard to talk about the relief. And I can go through the special exceptions in depth. I tried to go kind of quick because I want to be respectful of the last group. Does that answer your question? I guess.
Yeah.
The answer is everything.
Yeah, for me, like personally speaking, everything with the zoning seems totally fine and great. The only my concerns, such as they may be, are only regarding the public space, and I'm looking forward to that conversation.
Great. Good to hear.
I was wondering, I didn't quite get, what is the building going to be used for? And also, what are the special exceptions? I'm sorry if I missed it.
Yeah, I apologize. I went a little fast. So the building's principal and most important use is to be a warehouse to store equipment and materials for our business. We do many things, including typically installing solar panels on top of buildings in the district. And then we're not going to occupy the whole building. So we're going to lease parts of it to other green businesses. We have a couple of other solar companies in DC that need a space that are warehousing in Maryland or moving that direction. And then the retaining the tree company as well. So the bulk of the building's volume is a warehouse. But there's other things going on. It's a nightmare from an architectural and building code perspective because there's so many uses. There's those residential units. That's not really a major source of income, but it's designed to make the building attractive, you know, big windows and so on, and get additional folks, giving them an opportunity to be in the neighborhood. And then there's some retail spaces to try to activate the streetscape. So it's doing a lot of things, but ultimately it's a warehouse for us to store solar panels and inverters and wire. But you look at it, and I think it looks like something that's a lot more interesting than just a big boring warehouse. Does that kind of help describe the building program?
Totally, thank you. And what are the special exceptions and how many?
Yeah, I apologize. I made an answer to that. So let me go back to that part. Let's look at the elevations. I think that'll help. Okay, so I'll go in order. So if you look at this east elevation, that's the image on the left. Notice how the building goes straight up and down, front and back. Of course, front's not a problem. But in this particular PDR class, above 20 feet in building height on the rear elevation, we're supposed to step it back from the property line. So that's a special exception. So imagine the building would have less space in the back. The reason for that relates to getting that full-size tractor trailer in, getting it off the street, backing it up to that loading dock that goes up and down, and then having space for the forklift to back up and turn to get into the freight elevator to take materials up. So that's sort of our reasoning why we like to have that bump out, because we need to be able to unload the panels at higher levels of the building within that part of the building volume, if that makes sense. Relatedly, we'd like to ask for relief, a special exception to building height for the penthouse. So see how the penthouse is quite tall. It's shown as 20 feet. I believe the standard height is 12 feet. So with a 12-foot tall penthouse, we'd be set back 12 feet front and back, very much like the self-storage building that's immediately east of here. So we're saying, okay, we'd like to be a little taller, but we're willing to kind of bring it back in equal measure. So it has the same sort of visual impact to light, air, and so on. And then the final relief, special exception we'd ask for, relates to setbacks at the penthouse level on the two side yards. So again, if you look at, in this case, the right image, which is the rear elevation, the one off the street. As on the large public storage building a couple doors down, you'd see that those sides kind of truncated. They would come in a few feet, very much like that, almost exactly like that building next door to us. So those are the three areas of relief. And then if we have a community serving user, we have this really cool idea to repurpose an existing, I haven't signed this up yet, so we're not talking about it, but the notion is we'd like to repurpose an historic metal building that's not far away from here that's going to get demolished as sort of the interior architectural treatment of that space. And that metal building is 20 feet tall. So there's a reason, there's a bit of an historic preservation motive that's driving that desire to make this a taller building volume that has a smaller footprint. Sorry for the long-winded explanation.
No, I really appreciate it. Thank you so much. It's like an amazing project. I'm so happy about it.
Well, thank you very much. I'm excited by, yeah, and I appreciate your cat picture. I was expecting my cats to come across as special guests during this conversation, but they're off. They're sleeping somewhere. So. Yeah.
Oh.
John, I know most people are going to be concerned about the trucks.
Excuse me one moment, Kevin. Just letting you know I have to go.
Okay. All right. Thank you, Skip.
All
Appreciate
right.
it. John, I was saying, I know most people will be concerned about the trucks because, you know, DDOT is redoing this road. I know on the south side of Mount Olivet, there's going to be a protected two-way bike lane. So people are just going to be, when they think about the truck doing this maneuver, they're just going to want to be sure that the truck will have the room for the future plan. And even now, it's hard for me to envision. A couple of questions related to that. Will you be able to update your renderings so it includes the latest concept? Because I know DDOT's pretty far into I'm not sure if they finalized the design yet, or actually, maybe the question if you're in communication, have they finalized the design for the Mount Olivet Road?
That's a great question. I have reached out to the responsible DDOT engineer. I've not heard back, but actually one of the commissioners that chairs in this ANC, who chairs the transportation committee, who perhaps has a little more heft than our little company, has reached out to DDOT staff, and they say it's forthcoming. So I think they're kind of holding their design until it's done. But we did share a really detailed explanation of sort of the history of our conversations with DDOT and some of the road alignment issues with them. So again, like initially, if we had presented to you 2 months ago before I discovered the Mount Olivet road diet, we would have done what DDOT initially suggested, which is to come in from the, you know, where the truck basically is. It's in the eastbound lane, as far away from this building as possible, and then kind of reverses. The problem with that now, though, is that of course that lane is going to become a bike lane, and even if we reversed on the opposite side, so in this case the sole eastbound lane, as you know from the way trucks turn, the cab of the truck in that case, not what we're proposing, but in that case, the cab would swing out into the bike lane, which is also dangerous and impossible. Don't want to do that. So that's why we've diverted to this other approach, which we think is the only way to actually get a truck into the site. I'm going to pull that up real quick for us to look at.
I think what will be helpful, John, is maybe someday you could actually have a truck of the size and dimension perform that maneuver. And maybe you have to do it in the wee hourly hours of the morning or at night so you don't block traffic, but maybe put some cones out in the road in the location of the future bike lane that kind of, so the road is, you know, representative, and then actually have a truck driver back in the truck. Because I think a lot of people are going to be really stuck visualizing if this is going to be a safe, you know, like if it's only happening 1 or 2 times a week, then I don't think people will be fine if it temporarily blocks traffic. But it'll be another issue if they're just not convinced that the maneuver can be done. So if there's a way of where, and by the way, you can submit videos into the BZA case record. They you can upload it to the website, and then they put a link into the case record. So if there's a way if this you think is going to be the thing that kind of makes people nervous about it, film it being done into the current site, and that would put people's minds at ease. Because I'll say, I see your image on the screen, and I'm like, okay, I think that's. I'm not a traffic engineer, but if you can, if you could do that, and you haven't even submitted the BZA. And before I forget, I do need you. If we typically have access to all these drawings because we go into the BZA case record. We don't have this yet because you haven't submitted. But if you could, maybe if you want to put your documents into a Google Drive and share it with me, and I can share it to the ANC commissioners. That way, they can zoom in on these renderings.
We'll absolutely do that. And again, we don't mean to be ill prepared, but it's our experience that if we were to come to you with this and said this is baked and it's already been submitted to BZA, it kind of flies in the face of like this is actually being a meaningful pursuit, right? We want to come to you guys. The plans are fairly far along, but we want to come to you first and say, hey, here's what we're thinking. But again, this feedback is all great. But yeah, we're quite interested in submitting that as soon as possible. I will say we can definitely have a truck come out and do that. We have a lot of vendors that can help us. That's kind of what's represented here. So this is what we'll submit that for sure. It's a great suggestion. This is sort of what the civil engineers produce. That this is not a very elegant. It's not a very complicated drawing, but this is what they'll submit. They'll submit a cleaner version of exactly what you see to DDOT, because that's what they'll demand of us. We've sort of talked through with them what they kind of want to see. But you can see it will work, but we'll definitely work that for you with the video.
Okay, so John, this is your first presentation to the agencies. So what we'll do is I want to leave time for the third group on the agenda tonight. You're going to be probably coming back to the ANC. I think once you've submitted, even if you file today, you're not going to be on the BZA calendar probably for 4 or 5 months. So we've got more time to discuss this. But I think this is kind of a great first presentation. And after the meeting tonight, I'll send out the YouTube link to the ANC commissioners so they can review this. They're going to have more questions themselves, and they'll have your email address and they can reach out to you. And hopefully, I think it's Commissioner Stephen Cobb. He's the chair of the Transportation Committee, so that way they can, maybe he can help facilitate getting final plans out of DDOT because he works with them frequently, so we can get exactly what the plans are.
But Kevin,
Right.
Yes.
we just switched chairs. Now Reed May is chair of the Transportation Committee.
Oh, he is. Okay, gotcha. All right. Okay. Thanks for the clarification.
Close, and I appreciate your forbearance for a moment longer. And that's sort of why we wanted to come today. I guif there are any real concerns being registered, we want to know, because as you can imagine, like a building like this it's fairly sophisticated, like the building systems, the facade. It's not just like stamped out like everything else. So that's why we want to make sure that we anticipate any issues whatsoever, so we don't go down the road spending dollars on design elements that are not going to be something that's supported locally. So if there's any, we would love feedback on any. I've heard a lot tonight, but from not only this group but from the ANC at large, to say, hey, is this something that people are excited about, or are there issues we need to head off? And I think I've gotten some of that feedback tonight. So thank you very much for that.
Yeah. Just a quick question: how many like permanent jobs will be on site on a weekly basis? By obviously you're spread over the city right now. Now you're going to put them right on Mount Olivet Road. How many employees will be working on site each day?
Yeah, it depends on how many businesses locate in the initial phase, and what the constitution of some of the last tenants are. I'd say anywhere from 25 to 35, maybe. I mean, it really depends. A lot of times, there'll be a lot of people at certain times of the day, and then they're going out and doing things and coming back. But it will definitely add some dynamism to the location.
Okay, yeah, I think it's good to highlight. And I would say just because this is such a unique design that I haven't seen before, if you have some 3D renderings of how the ground floor would look, just it was hard for me to visualize. I didn't, you had previously shared with me the front facade rendering. I had no idea what was behind that giant door. It's very different than products we typically see. So if you could get some, I think before you present to the ANC, if you can get some 3D renderings for the door open, and if that's something you have, if your architect can do that, just to help people wrap their mind from a 3D perspective. But I think that's my final feedback. I really want to move on to our friends at Eden so they can present their project, John. Okay. All right. I'm going to promote someone to a co-host at Eden's. Who wants to present?
Hey, Kevin, that'll be me, Reynolds Allen.
Okay, let me do this. Hey, John, if you could stop sharing your screen. I think you can press the.
I think I can.
Actually, I can just. I'll just stay on the sharing my screen just to stop that. Okay, perfect.
Okay, Kevin, do you see my screen now?
I do, yes.
Great. Okay.
All right. So sorry for the delay. I appreciate everybody sticking in here.
Problem. And John, really interesting project. So good luck. Okay. Well, thank you for allowing us some time on your agenda last minute today. My name's Reynolds Allen with Eden's. Also with Eden's on the phone is Grant Johnson. And joining us as well is our zoning counsel, Dave Lewis with Goulston and Stores. For those who don't know of Eden's, we've been working in the Union Market District since 2006, working to try to implement the district's vision, which is the council adopted Florida Avenue Market small area plan. Some of the things we're known for would be we created the Union Market Food Hall, the Latin American Market La Cosecha, much of the new retail and businesses throughout the district that you've been seeing, bringing new goods and services to the neighborhood. So we're here today to update you on the hotel project we previously presented. There have been a couple changes, as Kevin noted, to the zoning regulations that affected the entitlement route that we had previously been pursuing. That plan was to construct a boutique hotel of about 90 to 100 rooms, which a hotel is a use that is permitted by right and in the existing zoning, and planned to construct it within the height already allowed in this current zoning. That's 50 feet, which would be less than half the height of the surrounding new buildings, one recently constructed and another to be built. Those properties went through rezoning to be allowed to build up to 120 feet high. Our plan is still to continue with a small boutique hotel, but based off some of the adjustments to the zoning regs, we had to adjust a little bit to the plans here. So when we present it to you, the plan required us to obtain 5 special exceptions from the Board of Zoning Adjustment, and I'll touch on those quickly in a moment to refresh your memories. As part of our new and as part of that entitlement path, we presented this project to your Zoning and Development Committee in August last year, which seemed to be well received. Then ultimately to the full ANC in September, where the project was voted on, and we received a letter of support for us to provide with our Board of Zoning Adjustment application in favor of those 5 special exceptions requested. So after going through all of that, we were then notified that the Office of Planning, who has been fully supportive of this project and continues to be very supportive of this project, there had been some revisions made to the zoning regs for DC overall. And one of those changes happened to impact our project, not intentionally, but coincidentally. So the changes affect, I mentioned we have 5 special exceptions that we had reviewed and gotten approval for before. The changes affect one of those special exceptions we're pursuing. And even though just one, it meant we had to go back to the drawing board on how to proceed with zoning approvals. So once this came to light, we met with Office of Planning on multiple occasions, and they helped us determine the best path forward so this project can still become a reality. The direction the Office of Planning recommended we pursue is what's called a map amendment. This would address one main aspect of the project that is now considered variance instead of a special exception. That's the big difference. And at the same time, we would continue going to the Board of Zoning Adjustment for 3 of the other 4 components, which are still special exceptions underneath the revised zoning regs. I say 3 instead of 4 because one of them is no longer necessary if we pursue the map amendment. So based on this direction from OP, we're now looking to run these 2 paths simultaneously, the BZA and the map amendment. I'm not going to rehash the whole project for you tonight. We'll flip through a few slides to familiarize you with it. Just like John, we're very, very early on in this process and coming to you guys early as we're kind of blocking out the path forward with OP, just to make sure you're aware of what adjustments are changing from what we had previously discussed with you. So we'll explain the effect of the change to you, and happy to dive into any questions, any details that you want to. So to quickly reorient you, the location is a small parcel directly across the street from Politics and Prose and the Village Cafe. When we purchased the property 9 years ago, it was a vacant wholesale beauty supply building. It's a little yellow building. You can see it in the bottom right of this picture here. The existing building sits between the recently constructed 10-story apartment building that you see on the right in the bottom picture called the Morse, and the planned Gallaudet JVG Smith development that is approved for a 12-story project on the current parking lot parcel that borders our project on both the side and the back. So completely surrounding it, projects planned or already constructed to be 120 feet tall. So this is the rendering that we had shown previously. This has not been adjusted for our updated plans, and I'll talk to you about that in a second. But still, vision being the same, what we envision here is, rather than doing a large high-density project, multifamily, which is what was originally planned for this project, we're planning a small boutique hotel with a ground floor that acts like a gathering space for the community, and not just a lobby for a hotel. That ground floor is critically important to us. We think the neighborhood and the way that it activates and adds to the neighborhood. So that vision is still our plan. A little more context, the property is currently zoned PDR1. On this page right here shows that all the properties in orange, which there are about 2 dozen of, have been rezoned to high-density mixed-use projects. That's important for you to know because the reasons that we are requesting approvals for our projects are due to zoning requirements that are generally meant to protect neighboring low-density residential, think single-family home, townhome type properties if they were next door, which, as you can tell from this visual, is not the case here at all now that these have all been rezoned. So what we are proposing now is a building height of 70 feet, which is an additional 20 feet from our prior plan. And that would now be, instead of being a little less than half the height of the buildings on either side, we're now a little bit over half the height of the buildings on either side. Just a couple photos to help give you more context. If you notice at the top left, the building that's called 500, that's labeled 500 Morse. You'll notice that there's no windows on the first 8 floors of that building where our property is. That's because that owner designed this building expecting for our building to also be built to the property line, meaning that the exterior walls of the buildings would be right against one another. So the building plan on the other side, which is to be built on Gallaudet's parcel with JVG Smith, is designed the same way with exterior walls right against ours. So our planned building being lower than both of theirs. So as I mentioned, there's our 120 feet. Ours will be only up to 70 feet, allows a lot more light and air and additional windows for the Gallaudet project. I'm going to skip over a lot of these next slides. They're really just kind of orienting you and some of the prior plans that we shared with you. Not a lot of major changes to these plans on the floor plates and so on. As mentioned, we are proposing, due to going the map amendment route, that OP has recommended that the building height will increase from 50 feet to 70 feet. That means we're going to add about 1, maybe 2 levels of additional hotel floors, which will increase our number of hotel rooms up. Our higher end was about 105 before, up to around 125 rooms. In a minute, I'll show you some preliminary plans that we just developed earlier today. As mentioned, we're coming to you guys very, very early in the process so we can gain your feedback going this new directed path. This is a massing plan you saw before, just putting into context what it's like with this smaller building in the kind of future massing with the projects around it. And then one more that shows you really how all this, how this building sits. This rendering will update. It will raise it up another 20 feet, but it'll still be significantly smaller than what's around it. So now getting to the point, as mentioned, we filed an application with Board of Zoning Adjustment for this proposed project to request special exceptions for 5 items, all of which the ANC 5D previously voted in favor of. Little, if anything, has changed for the first 3, so I'll hit those first. First is a food and beverage offering on the top floor of the hotel with a terrace. Nothing's changed there. That's still the expectation. So nothing would change with that piece as we go to the BZA. The next would be our rear setback, which we had been looking to reduce a 12-foot rear setback by 2 feet to be a 10-foot rear setback. And that was done primarily to match our portion of an already planned and recorded easement for a service alley between our property and the Gallaudet JBG Smith property. It's now, based on the taller height, would be about 14'6", so it's about 2.5 feet bigger would be the requirement. However, important to know is that the service alley itself is actually 34 feet wide, so it's still 8 to 10 feet wider than what the requirement would even be if you combine the 2 properties together. The third, which is the side yard setback that we had included as a special exception previously, if we pursue and obtain the map amendment, that is no longer an area of relief that we would need to request. The 2 special exceptions that we previously discussed of the 5 that are affected by the new direction of going the map amendment is the floor to area ratio, where the BZA route would have been for a 3.5 floor to area ratio. The map amendment, and as it is set in the Florida Avenue Market Small Area Plan, recommends a 5.0 FAR and 70 feet instead of 50 feet as mentioned before. Like I said, that adds 1, maybe 2 levels of hotel rooms. On a small parcel like this, which is just over 13,000 square feet, it doesn't add up to that much, but makes a little bit of a difference. And then the second item would be on the parking relief. This slightly larger building increases the parking per code by, depending on number of rooms, from anywhere from 2 to 4 parking spaces, which would take us up to, at most, 25 parking spaces per code. As we discussed before with the ANC, the reality of the trips for folks coming to stay at this hotel would be heavily weighted to be rideshare trips or metro. So Grove Slade, our traffic engineering firm, had done the study, and more realistic projected peak demand really would increase it by about one parking space at most on a daily basis. So pretty minimal impact there. Like I said, we do have some very preliminary early plans, which I'm sharing on the screen now. Can you guys see the new plans? Did it switch over to the new sheet?
It did.
Okay, good. This is the ground floor. Not really anything changes here. The hotel floor plates change by maybe 100 square feet, actually smaller. And just as kind of massaging things, meeting with the FAR and the height. The rooftop still the same. And then here is a very rudimentary section of really what you end up with. Again, going up to 70 feet in height, and with hotel over retail. And that's it. Dave and Grant, is there anything that I failed to mention?
Nothing here.
That sounds good.
Yeah. And so what we did meet with Commissioner Arbuckle fairly recently, reviewed this with him. And I know he had to jump off just a little bit ago. But then we talked about and asked to be added to the agenda today. I won't put any words in his mouth as to his feelings around this, but he did feel that it was worthwhile coming to this group and going ahead and starting that presentation. And then heading back to the full ANC so we can update everyone as to what our new path is proposed to be.
Okay. Well, I won't put words in his mouth, but I will read the message he sent me because he was attending the meeting, but he actually had to leave. But he did write me that he had spoken with you and he is in full, and Commissioner Arbuckle, this is his single member district. And he did write to me. I'm just quoting his email. I've already discussed the Eden's project with Grant. I'm in complete support of the new proposal. I'll take a look at the YouTube recording later to see if there's any questions or feedback. Thank you so much. So I know the commissioner is in support. Actually, I didn't realize the last time when you presented, I just assumed that the hotel floors were the same depth as the first floor area. But is it really?
That's why I don't like this building section. It's a little hard to tell. So it makes it look like it's a real narrow little thing.
Oh,
back here, it's more of a T shape.
Okay, understood. Gotcha.
Does that make sense?
Now it does. Gotcha. And just so I understand, so it sounds like you previously had a smaller setback at the back, but the building is not as deep anymore because of another zoning
The depth of the building is actually the same.
Okay.
We're setting back 15 feet from the front property line just because we wanted to actually create a nice outdoor space at the front. And then at the back, we've got a 10-foot setback. On our previous plans, based off the 50-foot height, we would have been required to be 12 feet. And as you can see, there's this 2311 dimension here. There's additional setback even beyond that, but this is the alley that we've agreed to and have a recorded easement in place with the other two surrounding property owners. And so that's kind of how that works. Now, with the slightly higher building, it requires another 2-ish feet of setback per code. So that will change a little bit in our request, but the net effect based off of the overall service alley is still significantly larger than the combined setbacks between the two properties.
Understood. Gotcha. So the alley will now be almost 24 feet. The effective alley, the part of the alley which is on your lot line versus the other adjacent neighbor's lot.
Yeah, it's just a little bit more what we came to an agreement on with the design of JBG and Gallaudet for their property, as well as Elcor's property to the south, was that it lined up best for everyone, that it was more on that side of the line versus this. So it's about not quite an even split between the two.
Okay. Well, I mean, this is going to be a hotel. I don't think anyone's going to object to having 2 more floors of hotel, and already, I mean, all the other buildings, the new buildings around here dwarf this building. So I doubt anyone will have any objections to, I was even surprised how, compact the original design was. So I don't think you're still even going to be below the windows of the adjacent property at 500 Morse. So I doubt anyone's going to have any objections. I would just say if you just had a couple slides, just bulletizing before, because the ANC commissioners, they voted to support this, I think, back in September or October. So if you just kind of like make it very easy for them to understand before and after. Quick question, what is the timeline for the next BZA case and the map amendment process? Is that a quick thing, or will that take a year?
Unfortunately, it's going to slow us down by not quite a year, we think, from an entitlement standpoint, but it's going to slow us down pretty significantly. We were expecting to be fully entitled. We were supposed to be at BZA in December. We were on the agenda for December 13th. We pushed that back. We're currently on for February 29th, but that's going to have to push back as well because we need the map amendment and the BZA to be timed approximately the same time. And we won't be able to get into the zoning commission for the map amendment probably until July at best. And more likely September, which is unfortunate. It's going to push this whole project back about 9 months at least.
Okay.
But we're making do, figuring out our best way.
No, I appreciate and sometimes on a given month, the ANC might have a lot of, like you could potentially go to the ANC in February, right, and ask for just to get that T crossed I dotted right now. But if they're like really jammed up with their agenda that month, if you don't think that you'll be having a BZA case until July or August or September, then just let them know, hey, this is the actual one. We actually will need you to review and have a vote of support. So just keep that in mind. That if their schedule is, I don't know what their schedule is in February. Just let them know when you think you actually will need it. I think I doubt they will object to anything you presented tonight because they were previously extremely in support of the project and all the changes all seem very positive.
I hope so. Yeah, and I think we'd like to come in as soon as there's space for us on the agenda and we have everything kind of lined up, good set of plans and everything to show everybody. Because it helps kind of move the project along through that map amendment and BCA process as well. So, but thank you. That's a good suggestion on the comparative of we can make something visual that's easy to follow the couple small changes that have occurred.
Gotcha.
Okay. Any other questions we can answer today?
I don't. I see Commissioner Roblin and Commissioner Rhodes are online. Do any of the commissioners have any questions?
No, thank you.
Okay. Well, if anything comes up, if anyone has any questions after the fact, please don't hesitate to reach out to us. We're happy to schedule some one-on-one meetings or follow up via email or phone calls. Just let us know.
Gotcha. Will the BCA case ID stay the same? Like if you upload will it be the same case record?
Yes.
If we want, okay, gotcha. So we can just basically send a link to the ANC commissioners. Hey, you can find the new renderings here. And, so instead of emailing stuff to me for me to forward, so I would just encourage you to put it into the case record and we can send them the link and they can track it down.
Okay. Yeah, we'll be happy to, once we have updated the full package, we're happy to circulate that around too, if that's helpful. Okay.
Well, I really appreciate you guys coming in and all the hard work and, improving the neighborhood. I appreciate it.
Well, thank you. Thanks for squeezing us in tonight too.
No worries. I'm glad to help and anything I can do to help. Okay. All right. Well, I'm going to call it a night for the evening. It's after 9 o'clock here. Appreciate everyone coming to present. And I will send this meeting has been streamed to YouTube, so I'll send a link out to the ANC commissioners so they can review the presentations and reach out to you with any questions. Again, thanks everybody. Be safe out there and I want to give a quick shout out. There is a Trinidad farmers market in the parking lot of the Cole Elementary School, and it's amazing. And it's nice to have a farmers market. And just anyone who lives in a neighborhood, I encourage you all to go there every Sunday. It's nice to kind of have that kind of amenity in the neighborhood. It's one of these things people have to go to it and give the business. There's a great breakfast burrito place and another breakfast sandwich place and farmers market and a little bakery. There's a microgreens place. There's lots of little businesses there. There's a Peruvian coffee roasting guy. I get a bag of coffee there every weekend. So lots of, just want to give a shout out to the little farmers market that's starting up. It started, I think, back in November, and they're doing really good. So we want to support that. So if any of you guys live in, Trinidad, Carver, Langston, within walking distance, I encourage you to go to your local farmers market.
All right, great. You said it's at Cole Elementary?
Yes, in Joko, yeah.
Okay, great.
So yeah, it's right in the parking lot on Sunday morning. I think they kick off around 9 a.m. or 8 a.m. or something like that. And they're there, rain or shine. I was there one day and it was torrential downpour. And the coffee guy, he had his whole grinding set in the back of his car, and he still opened up and made some coffee right there. I was pretty impressed with his setup. So
Right.
okay.
Yeah,
All right, folks.
9 to
I
1.
will,
9 to 1.
yeah.
All right.
Okay.
Look
All
forward to
right.
checking it
Cheers.
out.
Have a
Thanks,
good
Kevin.
evening. Be safe. Cheers.
Thank you. You too.